for joining us and for being patient a couple of minutes since we are like a couple of minutes late. But this is the first webinar that we are doing in terms of finances. So it's going to be a series of webinars where we discuss or where we evangelize finances as such. And the first topic that we have is about managing different resources or different streams of funds that freelancers and remote workers are getting nowadays. And for that reason, I have here as speakers and as guests, I have Darko, which is coming from the world of freelance and remote working, where all of the money are right now. And I have then Alexander and my colleague Milos coming from the other side of things as experts for managing finances and helping, let's say, these people that need help in managing or need advices in managing finances when it comes to freelancing and working in different countries and with different clients. So we're going to speak in a language that everyone can understand, because as I mentioned at the beginning, I really thought I am finance savvy until I met my colleague Milos. When I met Milos and we were discussing finances, then I realized I might not be so finance savvy as I think I am. And that's how we came to the idea to talk to you, to all of you who want to learn more about managing finances when it comes to different diverse, let's say, income streams that might come from one client or from different clients from different countries as well. So we're going to start by introducing my guest. And Darko, I would like you to take your time and introduce yourself. Tell us, what do you do, how much years of experience you have you managed to successfully manage your finances or not, and what are your challenges in that? And then Alexander, feel free to introduce yourself as well, and Milos, you will be the last because you last joined us.
Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alex, for the warm welcome, and good afternoon, good evening, or good day, wherever you're based. So I'm Darko. I'm a graphic and UI designer. I have around 7 or 8 years of experience. I'm currently working remotely and freelancing. About managing my sources of income, let's tell it like a story. So once upon a time, as I started to grow my freelance career, something interesting happened. As I started getting more and more projects, I kept all my income in one account without paying much attention to it. So as long as money was coming in, I was happy. But then I took on a side hustle that required a lot of my time. That's when I realized I wasn't really aware of how much money I'm spending. Sorry. So you see, I was using the same account for both personal expenses like food and utilities, and professional expenses like paying people for outsourcing work and software subscriptions. It became a bit messy to say the least, and I knew I had to make a change. So I decided to create another account using Wise. I split my income in half and started documenting everything meticulously. I recorded my income, expenses, payments, and even the dates and times of every transaction. And it really helped me keep track of my money and control my spending. And you know what? The system worked. I managed to save enough money to start yet another side hustle where I outsource most of the work that allow me to focus on my main passion, which is design. All my income from design now goes to native teams, but for bookkeeping and tracking, I have to admit I'm a bit old-fashioned. I like writing things down with pen and paper, but no matter what method you prefer, I strongly advise everyone to track their income. It's a game changer and can help you achieve financial success. Trust me, your future self will thank you for it.
And how many clients do you work for right now? Do you have like one client, one project, or do you manage more than one client?
No, I usually work on maybe 5 to 6 projects simultaneously for different clients. It can happen for one client. I can have 3 projects. For another client, I can have 1 or 2. It really depends on the situation.
Right. And is that like adding a little bit to the challenges that you have in order to manage how those money will come to you and all of the legislations in the different countries? Is that a challenge that you would say a freelancer is having nowadays, especially a freelancer like you, a busy one, I would say, when
Well,
you manage 5 projects?
of course, with every business there comes a that type of risk, but um, you just gotta gather a experience on how to tackle these things. On every beginning, you're gonna have those problems, and as long as you keep working, you're gonna find solutions to that.
Mm.
No matter what, either by researching, either by chance or coincidence, you're gonna need to tackle those problems.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Darko. And I would like to move on to Alexander now. Like, Alexander, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your expertise?
Yeah, sure. I'm on the other side. I'm actually, like, let's say my profession is predominantly a tax advisor. I worked with one of the big four companies for like 8 years on a position of a tax manager. And pretty much my job was to advise like big corporations about their taxes, but also financial and legal affairs. Also, there were a lot of startups we also advise. So it's like a really different because on one side you have corporations where you have in-house financial people where you can actually talk to them, they understand you, and they much providing advices is not that hard. On the other side, you have startups where you have founders, and founders are predominantly focused on what they're doing and they're focused on product, not on the financial, tax, or legal matters. So there is actually more challenging to actually get on that level and articulate the issues and the problems, solutions actually, and to help them to implement that. And also like the third part, they are actually high net worth individuals on one side, but also like regular citizens where you also on one side have a challenge to advise them correctly for them to understand what that means, but also to help them because not every solution is for everyone. Like from my perspective, because I was just coming from a lecture when one guy said, like in the US, everything we are talking about are the taxes. Like taxes is something that directly hits your cash flow. Taxes are something that actually gets the funds from you and redirects it into the state budget. And pretty much like the strategy in that regard is really important for like whether you are a multinational company or you're a freelancer. This is actually something that actually hits your budget, hits your cash flow, and this is where you need to pay the attention. And actually, like my origin, how I ended up in taxes is that I actually studied in Australia, and pretty much this is where I first came in direct contact with taxes because you need to do self-assessment, you need to file a tax return there, and you can get a refund of taxes there. And I'm like, okay, this is great because if I knew this, I need to hire an accountant to do so. But if I knew this, I can actually add value to the clients. So yeah, pretty much. Then I came back to Serbia, where actually I'm currently working with. And I actually started my profession as a tax consultant, although I finished the economics faculty, but pretty much nothing was related that much with taxes. So yeah, that's like in a nutshell my background. And currently I'm like for the past 2 years, I'm working in one Serbian startup called The Center. It's a blockchain company and R&D hub. And like it's like pretty different, but still really, really challenging because like all of those challenges, I said, it's not a corporation, but there are a lot of individuals, a lot of, let's say, individuals I'm working with. There's like a company, you have an LLC, you need to work with the taxes, with the financial and legal matters. So pretty much, I didn't, get out of the industry. I'm pretty much still in the industry, but I'm having a different perspective. Now I'm in the company and not like an external advisor.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're going to use your expertise a lot in this 1 hour. So I have a lot of questions for you and Milos. And Milos, over to you now. As I said, you're my colleague, but I'll just give you a minute to introduce yourself. And my next question is for you, just so you know.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, actually, very similar background to Alex over here, my colleague. But yeah, so started studying in Australia, graduated over there, Bachelor of Commerce. Started working in accounting actually over there. So where my career started, and actually the passion towards taxes came pretty much exactly the same like Alex's. We actually, once I realized that I can provide value to other people, like because there is tax returns in Australia, we can actually, the more knowledge you have with taxes, the better it is. So you can actually provide more value. Sorry, there's some constructions over here. Hopefully it's gonna pass. Anyway, started my way up as a junior, went all the way up to a senior, and then moved back to Serbia. Joined native teams pretty much as a payroll specialist / tax consultant, but then I realized that there is actually a lot I can contribute a lot more with taxes rather than being a payroll specialist, and then like kind of went other taxation direction. So yeah, we started preparing a lot of projects that where we can help the freelancers. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting going forward, and can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, thank you for that. Darko actually really nicely touched upon, our use case for today. And our use case for today is a freelancer or remote worker who works and manages more than one project, which means more than one client, which means more than one source of income that might be coming from different countries. So my question to you, Milos, is like, can you elaborate a little bit more on what do you think are the primary challenges that global talent people are actually facing in order of tracking and managing multiple sources of income nowadays? I know we had a couple of examples there with native teams, but can you just, outline the primary challenges they face?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Darko mentioned the first one that actually hits the spot. It is the record keeping. I think everybody likes to handwrite everything, but staying organized and maintaining like all your records, income streams with the invoices and receipts and contracts is actually really important, and is gonna help you save a lot of time and streamline your processes. So you can actually focus on working your actual area of expertise. The second one that comes up my mind is definitely, if not the biggest one, the tax compliance of all of the sources where you are gathering your income. So you would actually have to navigate a really complex tax regulations depending on the country where your client is from. So not every country has the same regulations. So that's going to have to be really taken care of, which is something that some freelancers trying to negate. They think about it like, I'm gonna cross that bridge when I get there at the end of the year, which is, I disagree with that approach. It should be taken care of as soon as the challenge occurs. Time management as well. It's a lot of admin work that needs to be done from the freelancer perspective. Yes, okay, you are not on payroll anymore. You're your own boss, and you do your thing, but I'm a big advocate of, if you are, for example, a web designer, you should do web design. You shouldn't do admin stuff. You shouldn't do taxation and finance and bookkeeping. So save your time, do what you're best at, and try to allocate the stuff where you're not as good as to someone else, and your time management is going to be amazing. Another very big challenge for managing multiple sources of income and tracking is maybe currency exchange. I think different country, I mean, okay, euro in Europe is big, is almost everywhere, but I know there's a lot of freelancers in Europe that have clients in Canada, America, UK, so that's all different currencies. So having a place where you can exchange all these currencies into one would definitely be a lifesaver. So yeah, again, coming back to time management. So all of the things that needs to be done, like it's all in the small things, but yeah, they pile up, so it becomes a big problem for the freelancer.
Yeah, I can relate to that one. And for you might be all of those small things, but for freelancers that are not that finance savvy, as myself wasn't before I met you, so that's like the big things actually, believe me. So yeah, and I completely agree that you all should be doing what you love to do and leave Milos and Alexander do what they love to do as well, which
Yeah.
is finances and taxes. Yeah. Um, I'll go to Alexander right now. Since you mentioned that you've been working with a lot of different startups and companies, individuals, um, as a financial advisor and so on. So, what are some effective strategies for categorizing and organizing different income sources that you have, met in your experience?
Well, you can actually observe that question from many perspectives. Like if I, let's say, come from my, let's say, personal profession, from one side, it's like, what is the type of income? Like, okay, what I'm doing, if I'm a designer or I'm a programmer, this is actually one type of income I'm having, and it comes from different kind of clients, so that's fine. But on the other side, you can also have various types of other income. Like if you're managing your portfolio, like, okay, that's an income side, you're earning income from your clients, and that's pretty much it. The other question is what you do with that money, whether you actually get that money to work for you and actually generate more money. One of the simplest things that people actually do, you have those Vista deposits in the bank, and you have some small amount of the income you're generating. On the other side, you can have different investments which you can do. Either is it like real estate, stocks, or something like that. And then you pile up. You actually have a different source of income. And then there is a question of taxes, right? From the financial perspective, it's clear, like these incomes are different. These incomes are actually, let's say, contributed to your financial statements in a different manner. But then there are taxes. For all of these incomes, like different types of income, you need to pay taxes. These incomes are actually separated into different baskets depending on the country, the rules, and this is where you need to be familiar. Why? Because I'll go a couple of steps back, because usually when the freelancers start their own businesses, in whatever form it is, whether you have an LLC, whether you are, let's say, a self-employed individual, whatever it is, they only want to do their job, as Milos said. And that's what they actually should do. They need to do the job they're best in. But on the other side, they also need to be at least generally educated on what are the compliance requirements for them in order to be compliant with that actually with what the state actually requires from them. And this is actually where the taxes are important, because these different sorts of income are actually taxed in the same or different manner, and you need to be very careful with that. So you need to acknowledge that, and you need to be very careful. And if you are not familiar or knowledgeable in that, you actually need to have someone to help you with that. Also, what is important there is to have your structure, your form, like in whatever form you're going to work, set up from the very beginning. What I'm saying that because if you actually don't educate yourself or ask someone in which form you should perform your job, whether you should be a company or you should stay an individual, this will directly impact the taxes you're paying and the manner you're paying them. So pretty much like when it comes to the different sorts of income and how to manage them, it is important to have all the perspectives you need to have in order to do that very well. Like it's really easy, like if you want to do some sort of a budgeting, or you want to, just have an Excel file, or as Darko said, you can write it on a paper and say, okay, I'm earning this much, and then I'm having expenses which are on one side personal, and on one other side it's expenses related to the business. But at the end of the day, end of the year, you actually need to draw a line and say, okay, but what actually from all of this cash I've earned is mine, and what I need to pay to the state in terms of the taxes. And this is where actually I put a lot of effort and put a lot of value to my clients, is that Some of them come to me at the very beginning, and we set the structure in a manner that they are really clear of what they should do and how. And this is the way they operate. And then, we just follow up in case something changes in legislation. There are the cases that they come during their business, seeing that they are paying a lot of taxes and just asking why these IRS or these tax authorities actually take so much money from me. And you have the ones which come at the very end. And when I'm saying the end is when the tax authorities come and say you didn't do the assessment in a rightful manner. And then you have to pay the taxes you didn't pay. You need to pay the interest. You need to pay fines. And this is actually the end game. This is actually where you don't want to be. So yeah, this is pretty much from my perspective. And I'm, let's say, enhancing taxes this much because I'll get from the very beginning when I introduce myself. This is where your cash flow is actually impacted on a monthly level, usually on the monthly level. And this is where you need to be very careful. And of course, at the other end, you also need to be, if you are having a business, you need to know your clients, you need to seek your clients, you need to generate income. Otherwise, you won't be, freelancer, and you will not generate revenue, which will be taxed.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Alexander. Now, I would like you and Milos to discuss a little bit on how can global talents ensure that they're compliant with tax regulations and legal regulations or obligations in different countries? Because as you rightly mentioned, every country has different legal and finance legislations. So how can these people actually ensure that they're compliant in the countries that they would like to work?
Yeah, I don't know, Milos, do you want to start?
Sure, Ken.
Yeah.
Well, usually, I mean, at the beginning, when you start to develop your client network and when everything's just work, try to generate as much income as possible. Usually, that's not the time when the freelancers actually think about reporting or the other requirements that are by the legislation required. So usually just at that stage, do your research and try to understand the tax laws as much as possible. Something that is relating to your specific activity. Like firstly, what I would suggest, just understand the obligations from the taxation perspective, the deadlines, just so you don't get in any massive trouble, if we can say so. And then from that perspective, just know what is the major requirements expected from you to do from the local taxation perspective. And then later on, once you develop your business, once you start thinking about minimizing your taxes, try to get some tips and tricks from the, just start looking at the advice, get the professional advice, consult the experts. If you have international clients, get to know someone who does international advisory, cross-border taxation. There's always someone who can provide some guidance. You can always set up a meeting. That I don't think the consultants, usually the first meeting is, I can't say for everyone, but usually they're free, but there's no such thing as free dinner. So keep that in mind. So yeah, those two tips and tricks, try to keep your records as accurate as possible, because at the end of the year, your advisor or the accountant, the 100% they're going to say, give me your bank account. I need to see the transactions. Therefore, you need to know your income. You need to know like the clients for the invoices. You need to know the expenses. So the bookkeeping, again, coming back to that, like it's going to save your lives. It's going to save so much time. It's going to minimize your bill from the consultant and the accountant. So, I mean, those are just the first things that come up my mind. I mean, Alexander, you want to try to add something else over here? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I'll probably repeat what you said, because again, I fully agree that if you're a designer or a programmer or whatever, it's really a waste of your time to, let's say, get into the taxes and the accounting, because you'll need a lot of time for that. During that time, you can, let's say, speak with your clients, see clients, work for the clients, and generate your revenues. And on the other side, you have experts which actually deal with this on a daily manner. So pretty much there is someone who can actually summarize everything for you during 1 or 2 meetings. And pretty much like I've seen like a lot of cases, but maybe a good example would be a colleague, like a friend of mine who became a freelancer maybe a couple of months ago. And pretty much what he did is actually finding an accountant who would advise him what to do. Why I'm saying what to do, because in some countries, it might be risky to be a self-employed person for different reasons. And then probably the accountant would say, you should be an LLC. And this is the way the LLC is taxed. And this is the way you should be employed with the LLC or just generate your revenues. On the other side, some of them, like what actually he did, maybe that's a good point here. He spoke with the accountant, but the accountant was not that skilled. Why? Because you usually have tax consultants and you have accountants. And this is separated for a very important reason, because taxes are pretty complicated and people focusing on taxes are actually really dealing with that in a daily manner. Accountants are the ones who are recording your transactions. They need to know taxes because taxes directly influence how they record your transactions and your taxes, etc., etc. But not all the accountants are actually skilled. So he came to me and say, okay, Alex, what should I do? What is the best approach for me? And we went for a lunch. He's my friend, we went there, having dinner for like an hour or so. And during that hour and so, we actually clarified everything. Why we clarified everything? Because he's like, when you're a freelancer, your, let's say your business, it's much more simple than comparing to some multinational companies. And then it is usually when you have someone good to advise you, he can do that during 1, 2 meetings or writing you an advice. And this will save you a lot of time. Like really, this is like, you should usually find, it's hard to find someone to help you because there's a lot of people there which are actually saying they're advisors and consultants. But if you have a good recommendation, this would be the best approach for you because you save your time. And maybe some, revenues you'll invest in that will probably save you a lot of revenues, a lot of taxes in the future. So this is what, big companies do, but this is also what the small businesses also do, because, if you want to fix your car, you go to a mechanic. You're not trying to do that by yourself. Yeah. But if at the very beginning, you don't have sufficient funds to do so, as Milos said, you can also go and consult and see actually what someone will tell you, because usually the first meeting is free. But usually what happens after that is that you get sufficiently educated after that one meeting that you actually realize why is it important to have someone who knows that, like knows taxes, who knows accounting, because you will know that at that point in time, he'll save you time and he will save you money in the foreseeable future as long as you operate on that business model. So yeah, that's my view. And like I really have like 10 years of experience, and it's usually really hard for an individual to get into that stuff because it's complicated. It's really complicated. In whatever country you are, it's complicated. You usually, hear from your friends that some model is good and you try to replicate that. But usually if they didn't consult someone, there are some risks that lay down within that model. And you should really be aware of that. Just, so you can sleep calmly and be aware that whatever you're doing is compliant with the laws. And that actually your revenue, from your revenue, you'll pay taxes in the amount you should pay to the state. The reminder is yours, and you're free of any other obligations, and you can do your job without needing to deal with that on a daily manner, because it's really a job where any transaction you have, you need to deal with that really promptly. Whenever there is a deadline for the tax returns, you need to file it. And, that's really like, from my perspective, this is a job you need to do like every day.
Every day. Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you. I think we kind of got the bigger picture of this, but definitely the outcome of your discussion is that you need someone to consult with, someone who is a specialist in it. And I have this, it's not a question, but Onur is saying, I think the best would be to be able to do the taxes within native team system. I don't know if this is possible, just a humble suggestion. And my next question, Milos, is actually for you, and it's really related to this. So thank you, Onur, for doing the intro to my next question. How can technology and digital tools like native teams assist in streamlining the income tracking and management processes for freelancers and remote workers, in your opinion?
Well, everything that we just kind of mentioned. So all the challenges and all the obstacles that freelancers have, we kind of have multiple meetings when it comes to that, and I try to kind of develop a product that's gonna kind of cover all of those issues. We created it. We're just finalizing it. There's a lot of different customization tools that we are trying to implement. So starting with the actual bookkeeping. So all the invoices are going to be created from the Native Teams platform, and all of them are going to be saved on the same spot. So there is no need to going in different inboxes or your different emails and finding the different papers, who paid you what. So not only invoices, but expenses as well. Once you join Native Teams, you are pretty much like you receive a card. So that card, you can use it as your normal bank card. All those transactions are actually connected with the platform, in which you can do it on daily, you can do it in weekly, monthly. We prefer, if like the best case scenario is daily, but realistically it's going to be a minimum weekly. Every transaction is going to be allocated accordingly with the expense group. So if not, it's going to be treated as, let's call it private, but then we're going to send reminders that it needs to be sorted if that's the case. Anyway, once that is done, you can have your monthly, you can download monthly reports, quarterly reports, annual reports with all of the allocated expenses that are already created by you with our guidance. So at the end of the year or the quarterly, whichever reporting you do, it's going to be very easy for us to comply with the local authorities and see what is the tax payable in that scenario, if any. So I believe the platform is very beneficial. I think we are going in a lot of details that are going to help clients a lot, save so much time for the freelancers so they can actually focus on what they actually need to do. Again, coming back to whatever you do that. Let us help you save time and generate more income, and don't worry about the administration stuff or the compliancy stuff and whatnot.
Whatnot. And I guess they can call you and ask you like I do every time I need to do something there as well. Can they?
I mean, yeah, we have like the newest thing. We've allocated 2 hours every day. I'm open for any type of conversations with the freelancers. Today I had a call from United States, so we discussed some expense reporting. The day before we had a person from Macedonia talking about freelance income and expenses. And then every time I mentioned that all of their troubles can be sorted by coming to the platform. I'm glad that they see the value of it, because I was in those shoes as well. So I'm trying to create something that was going to help me before and now help other people. So as long as it's a win-win situation, I think everybody's going to be happy.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much. You definitely, if I can share my own experience, definitely been way more easier to understand everything when I talk to you. So thank you very much for that. And I guess you guys all will see the benefit when you speak with someone who has dedicated their life, their expertise on something that you don't want to do. So thank you guys for doing what we don't want to do, both Alexander and Milos here. Darko, on your side now, because when I hear like everything that you have to know about finances and taxes, you need to consult with specialists and so on. Like, I guess it requires a lot of like work and life balance to do all of that, and plus to have a quality time during your personal life. So as a freelancer, how do you have any tips, any practical tips on how you maintain that work-life balance while managing multiple income streams, maybe.
Absolutely. The first thing I'm gonna say is establish clear boundaries and prioritize your time. You need to set specific working hours for each income stream that you have, or each project that you have, and stick to them as much as possible. Clearly define when and what you'll be focusing on, and when you're going to be dedicating time for your personal life. This sort of like helps create that sense of structure and prevents work from spilling into your personal time. Also, as a second thing, I would say outsource tasks. Definitely outsource tasks, because juggling multiple income streams can definitely be hard. So if you break down the work into smaller tasks, you'll often find that a lot of small but time consuming tasks can always be delegated. Consider freelancers and on Fiverr, Upwork, and stuff like that, just to do the administrative tasks, social media management, for example, and stuff like that, so you can prioritize your high priority task and free up some time for your personal activities. And one of the most important one, I'm gonna say, prioritize self-care and schedule downtime. Make your self-care a priority by having regular breaks and downtime, because taking time off is crucial for you to do your best work. If you're unrested and always overwhelmed, there's a good chance you'll have a burnout, which after that you won't do any quality work. So prioritizing self-care is actually the part of the work that allows you to do your best work.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But imagine if you can, just do what you want to do. Like, I guess you design and you just design and so on. Wouldn't feel like, like you have to work too much when you do what you want to do and leave the rest of the things that you don't want to do to the people that are experts in that one. To me, that feels like the ultimate freedom, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and in order to achieve that, guys, now mainly to Alexander and Milos, but also you, Darko, can give us your opinion on this one. Do you think there is a need for freelancers, remote workers, and entrepreneurs in general to be financially savvy? And if you do, what would be the bare minimum that they need to know when it comes to finances, so that that they consider themselves like financially savvy?
Yeah, well, maybe I can start, but I think we have heard like everything on that. I'll just try to summarize. So one perspective is like to manage your finances, and this is like an internal thing, and it's like your own organization. So as Darko said, like if you keep everything in one basket, you probably don't know what are your personal costs, what are your costs related to the company or your business as such. It doesn't need to be the company. So it is really important to organize your finances, maybe even to budget something. So what is budgeting? Like all the companies are saying, okay, we budgeted something, or we are doing the budget now, and like this is pretty much something applicable for the large companies. But the budget is something that we can all do. But pretty much, it's a really simple thing. You just at the very beginning of the year, or like at the like mid time of the year or whatever, you just sit down and say, okay, I've had 6 clients, right? So my expectations is that from these 6 clients, I will earn this much revenue from each of the clients. So this is how I actually budget my revenue stream. On the other side, I have expenses, right? So pretty much I can do the same with the expenses. So from my personal perspective, I have personal expenses, which are like, I don't know, petrol. This is like paying the rent for my flat or something like that, food, etc., etc. But also there is a business side, right? From the business perspective, you need to have some sort of an expenses to provide your services. And also at the very end, there are taxes you need to pay to the state, and this is what you're left at the end. So pretty much if you summarize all of this, you can actually predict how your year will go. And then as the year goes, you have something budgeted, you have something you have planned, And on the other side, you have the actuals. So you can compare and see in which direction you're going, right? So yeah, pretty much that's on the internal thing. And it's like depending of your personal organization, but it's also something like everyone can apply. And I believe it's really important, even though if you're not a freelancer, but like in a regular living, if you're living from a salary, it is also important because, you know, we all have revenues and expenses. We all can have the budget and we can all predict what are the costs we have. Like whether we are going to, you know, go on a seaside for a holiday or something like that, or we want to buy a car or whatever, we can all budget that and have some savings to do so, but in an organized manner. And this is internal, let's say, some sort of internal perspective. From, let's say, internal perspective from organizing the finances. And the external perspective is actually to have sufficient knowledge on the external factors which will impact your finances. And these are the taxes predominantly. These are some other charges you might have during operating your business. Like I can have some examples here, like in Serbia where I'm situated, but there are some things like called cost of business. Like we need to pay some sort of eco tax, and you need to pay it because you're a business, and that's pretty much it. It's fixed. You need to pay some sort of a participation in some government, let's say, government authorities or funds, and that's fixed and that's prescribed by the law. So you really need to be educated on that other side because this is something that is the cost of doing business. This is something you need to pay every year. And this is also can get into your budget and you'll know that is a fixed amount you need to pay. On the other side, you have variable taxes, and this is something you can plan. So you have probably heard about the term tax planning. Tax planning is not illegal. Tax planning is something you can do, and tax planning is something that can help you to minimize your tax burden in a really legal manner. Like I believe that like most of the consultants will advise you on how to do so in a legal manner, and this is actually where they add value. So pretty much you engage a consultant on predominantly to save your taxes, but you also have to have the other perspective in mind that you engage consultant in order to emphasize any risks you're faced to and to actually protect you from being fined and protect you to have to pay additional taxes, fines, and interest. So maybe I would summarize it like that. I would not go into more details on that because it gets more complex. But from that perspective, like you have your internal organization and there is like an external factors you need to be aware of because this will impact your budget. And when I'm saying budget, the funds you have available at your account for doing business.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you've made a really good point about you need to know like how much taxes you need to pay and so on and so on. But Milos, this would be one for you. Do you think that people know, because I just remembered one thing that I've learned from you is tax allowances on the other side of the stake. So we do have some tax allowances and tax benefits that we should also know in order to optimize the taxes that we're saving. Can you tell us a little bit more about those two?
Yeah, definitely. So what you cannot benefit from as a freelancer, unfortunately, are those benefits and the allowances that the actual employers are providing to their employees. In some countries, those are literally meal allowances or travel allowances and stuff like that. So those are the things that the employers are providing their employees in order to reduce taxes on their salaries. So we can actually approach to those scenarios when a freelancer comes to us and say that they would like to be our client. We put them depending on the country they're from. We agree on, we calculate their income from their invoicing and say, okay, so this is the salary you can realistically receive. And from that point on, we utilize on the most legal way, of course, after all the research and consultation with the local accountants, we utilize all the allowances and all the benefits to for the client to get the higher salary and the lowest taxes possible in that scenario to be paid. So in some countries, those are, in some countries you have annual figures that can be paid out on monthly basis, and somewhere it's a lump sum fee. But in most cases, we can do a monthly payments for the meal allowances, for the travel allowances, public transport. And then, of course, I wanted to go back to the the benefits and contributions and pension plans. All those things are in most countries unavailable for freelancers because they are not on payroll, they're not on salaries, so they're losing that battle. So joining 80 teams when it comes to that is another win. So you don't have to worry about not paying. I mean, it is financially you have better cash flow without paying those, but in a long term, it's kind of a losing battle, because once you come up to an age of 65 or 60, the pension is going to be lower than it should be. So I believe we cover most of the issues. I mean, our primarily target are freelancers. So once they join us, we can assess any circumstance. Every case we assess separately, and we try to come up with a best case scenario for each of them.
Yeah, I remember I also in some of the countries you only have like one-time tax allowances, like getting married or your firstborn child or
yeah, exactly,
death in the family and so on. But those are also only available if you are like properly employed in the country, right? It's not like, yeah, am I correct?
Yeah. That's yeah, you're correct. And also we keep track, because some allowances are capped there on like a few $100s. So we also keep track, so we don't actually go over the threshold, in which case the employee would get in trouble. So so far, I mean, I've been here for almost a year, and so far we didn't have one case where we went over the threshold or claimed more than we should have. So everything's really straightforward and kept in a lot of details.
Cool. Yeah, and this is just confirmation for me that I have learned a lot when it comes to this. Yeah, thank you very much. And last question, guys, for all of you and the participants. If you have questions for me or for my guests here, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section or in the chat now, because we have 5 minutes and we'd like to answer some of the questions that you might have. And last question from me to you guys would be, do you have in mind some pitfalls or challenges to avoid when managing multiple income streams? I know we discussed what we should do, but what is to avoid when you have like different income streams, in your opinion?
I can go for this one. So the first thing that I would say is overcommitting and spreading yourself all over the place. This is speaking from experience and from watching other freelancers do the same thing. The one common pitfall is managing multiple income streams and taking on too much work or too many projects simultaneously. It's really tempting to pursue every opportunity that comes your way, but overcommitting can definitely lead to burnout and decline in the quality of your work. You should carefully evaluate each income stream or each project to figure out which one of those projects align better with your long-term goals and provide the most value. And the topic of this webinar, neglecting organization and time management. So the organization is a must, because juggling multiple income streams, you need to have exceptional organization skill and really great time management. As I said before, when you're working on yourself, there's no one on top of your head telling you when you need to work, how you need to work. You need to control your time and have and be the most disciplined person that you can be. Also, you can use productivity tools. I mean, internet is filled with a lot of productivity apps and task management apps like Monday or Smartsheet or project management software, Monday again, or ClickUp, to use all the tools that the internet provides to make your job easier. And it may seem overwhelming right now when you're starting, but looking forward 2 to 3 years, you're gonna thank yourself for having that organization from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. Self-discipline is super important. I completely agree. Alexander and Milos, would you like anything to add?
Yeah, Darko, did you find that once you try to align clients with more of a bigger picture and the stuff, you can kind of choose the client where you can benefit, you can help them a lot more than the other that you can help actually less. Do you find those situations that are actually leading you to happier kind of work environment? You want to come and help the client even more, and the client actually sees that, and then that goes on and he brings more clients, and it's kind of the network is kind of spreading.
Absolutely, it's definitely like a web. So when you work on projects and clients that you like, you unconsciously deliver your best work. You're happy to get up at 8 in the morning and do the work because the deadline is in 5 hours. And also, bad clients drain your energy. Good clients give you energy. So also, I say to the good clients are strategic clients. So a lot of good companies and a lot of good clients have a lot of good friends. So if you do a great job for them, they're gonna recommend you, and that goes like a web. It spreads, and you make your network bigger, you make your project pool bigger, and overall it's better for you as a freelancer, as a designer, a programmer, whatever you do.
Yeah, totally agree.
Well, thank you very much, guys. As a question, and it's something that Ivan wants me to share with all of you guys, and says it would be really helpful if we can transfer our earnings from Upwork to native teams. Since in my experience, most freelancers use other sites to find their clients, yeah. And it's against their terms to directly bill my client via native teams, yeah. We had this suggestion from a lot of our users, even just so you know, so working on it to find how to work with them. I'm not going to speak too soon, but we've kind of managed to speak with them in order to make some kind of a partnership so that it becomes really in their terms. But we will keep you posted in one of these series of webinars of how that's going to happen. But yeah, thank you very much for making this point. But it's something that we have had as a suggestion from many of the freelancers that work on Upwork and Fiverr as well. Cool. And I see we are really at the time. I would like to thank you guys for being here with me and evangelizing finances. I had a lot of fun and I've learned a lot. I hope all of you being here did that. And for those that registered but weren't able to be online, we're going to be sending a recording of this webinar, so you will be able to see what we discussed. Alexander and Milos, thank you very much for your expertise and your advices. I really appreciate you being here and talking to us and making us a little bit more finance savvy than we were yesterday. And Darko, thank you very much for being a perfect example of a freelancer who manages like multiple projects and income streams. And all of you, who has been here, thank you very much, and catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.